Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wealth Tech Insider. I'm your host, Danni Legrand, and I'm happy to be joined in person and face-to-face with my co-host, Peter Warren. Hey, Pete, how you doing?
Good, Danny.
That's good. Thought we'd do a quick news podcast, bit of a news update.
Been busy. You went on holidays. You went away for a week in New Zealand and the world lost its mind.
Everything's changed. I was in this tiny little country town. There was hardly any internet. I came back and...
You didn't use AI for a week? Did you have a break?
I didn't use AI. I didn't go on LinkedIn. Yeah, it was a great time. So you put a post up this week as another noisy week for AI. Obviously, Anthropic's building Jurassic Park, you reckon?
Well, yeah. So the analogy was, so they release a model. So they have these models, Anthropic, they all do, and you would be familiar with the term haiku and sonnet and opus 4.6. And so they released one called Mythos. Now, I thought that was a beer, but they seem to be using all these Greek sort of names. But the problem was they didn't release it. So what they basically have done is they've said, we've got this really great new model, but it is so good and so powerful, we believe it's a massive cybersecurity threat to basically release it to the world.
Right.
And so
that's kind of scary.
A little scary. So what it basically is, so they did do some testing. They released some companies they trusted to basically use it for assessing cybersecurity vulnerabilities. And long story short, this tool within a matter of days found up to 1 million vulnerabilities in well-known applications used across the world in software. So it was about basically go in and exploit vulnerabilities in major company software. The ultimate hacker, I sort of describe it as. So I sort of describe this tool. It's a bit like Jurassic Park to me. It's this great movie. It's it's that famous line in the movie where I think one of the Jeff Goldblum character, it's a great meme, but he says, scientists were so obsessed about whether they could, they never stopped to think whether they should.
Yeah.
I just wonder, are we getting to the realm now with AI where these models, which are just getting more and more powerful, are not safe in public hands, quite simply. And so what Anthropic has done is said, look, we had given access to this model to Microsoft, Cloudflare, some other companies that specialize in this, because these companies that do run, quite frankly, global infrastructure need to be able to understand what these models could do to their systems if they're not careful.
Okay. Right. That's kind of scary. And I think, again, this is so powerful. We're still not seeing governments or much legislation or any oversight. Do you feel like this is just, we're running free with this?
Look, you look at the public disclosures from the AI companies, OpenAI and Anthropic in particular, the way they read is almost they're begging to be regulated. Like they are saying to the governments, particularly the US government, even we don't quite understand just how powerful these models are. You need to regulate us. And so there's a bit of brinkmanship going on because, as we know, speed and technology proficiency is not something that any world government's particularly strong at. And so this is the challenge that I think we are facing. And I suppose the only difference is because of the defense aspects, and there's every chance that if Claude has Mythos, then there's every chance that China has an equivalent model that's capable of doing the same things, right? So there's conspiracy theory, and it's conspiracy and it's quite real, that most AI in the future, most war in the future will be cyber. You can do so much more damage to a country's infrastructure with tech than you can with a bomb these days. Yeah. So what they've effectively done is they had released these models to, they've called it Project Glasswing. Glasswing is apparently it's the wing of a butterfly that's transparent. So they're trying to be transparent. And they basically said, we're going to release this program to the major software companies so they can actually do remediation and everything and get ready for this model before it is unleashed. Now, I'd say, well, why unleash it? That's really the first question. But clearly the competitive pressures are such that they just can't not release these models. OpenAI has a new 5.4 Cyber, I think it's called, which is going to be a similar model, apparently. I trust those guys a lot less than Anthropic for a bunch of reasons. But I think we just have to assume that it's out there and it's going to be used. So the real question is what's driving all this? look, both these companies, OpenAI and Anthropic, plan on becoming public companies this year, IPOing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So you can imagine that a model like this would be in hot demand by major companies like Microsoft and Cisco and Oracle and all those big companies. So I think at the end of the day, it's money that's driving these things, and governments. And governments will pay untold amounts of money to have access to these models, I thought, as well.
Yeah. You also pointed out, and I think in one of your LinkedIn posts, that Perplexity is doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
They're allowing their consumers in the US to directly link their financial accounts and build their own personal financial management tools as well.
Yeah, totally. And if anyone's played with it, they should. So Perplexity, on the left-hand column, they now have a finance tab. It's been there for a while. They have a health tab now, which I haven't got access to, but you can actually plug in your Garmin, your Strava data and all these sort of things if you want to have your own health. I could see Danny just getting completely uncomfortable with this idea. But they kind of want to build these interfaces for people's data. So I have to say, the Perplexity Finance one, you can put all your stocks and things in there, and it gives you the equivalent of a Bloomberg terminal, like all the data and all the companies, watch lists. It's great. It's really good. So I don't
have our private wealth clients that would love them.
Well, they would, but here's the thing, right? So this is in the hands of the public now. So people might not need their financial advisor for this stuff anymore. You know, like, so this is my point in the article, is that, you know, these interfaces are high quality, relevant data, easily accessible and free. And so it does make that whole thing about what is a financial or wealth management business serving up to its customers relevant to this. Now, the only critical difference was that I use it for general information, but now the US customers can now plug in their custody, their wrap platform assets if they want to, their open banking data into their own personal financial management dashboard, effectively, and configure it however they want. Now, as I said in the article, I think only 0.1% of people are actually going to do this sort of stuff. However, it sort of begs the question, you know, this is, for us, this is the competition. It's it's just so conceivable that all these AI tools are moving into the personal financial management space, because, you know, it's data rich, it's highly personalized, and obviously information's quite readily available now for finance. So the Perplexity one's definitely worth looking at. The other news that popped up after my post, but it happened, we did sort of predict a bit of this, was OpenAI had actually acquired a business that does personal financial management last week. So that business is called Hiro, Hiro, I think it is. And so it is a personal finance startup they've acquired. Now, in my experience, a company like OpenAI doesn't acquire something for the sake of it. Hiro is a AI financial planning tool.
Right.
So this is the first, I think, of many steps that will start to happen of mass-produced AI companies providing regular financial guidance through their apps. And so whether they do it through OpenAI is another story. I think they might create sort of separate versions of their product that'll be more regulated or less. But gee, I'll tell you what, if I was a pure play digital advice provider, I'll be looking at this really closely.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, isn't it? Because I guess, why does this matter to, you know, our listeners, primarily financial advice firms? I guess, you know, maybe that it doesn't even need to be a younger crowd. The crowd who starts to sort of look into these AIs, then, you know, are they going to be leaning in towards those over an advisor? Now more than ever is a time to, you know, uplift your services and make sure you've got those really strong relationships and tap into family members and do all those things that we, you know, we should always be doing. But I feel like this might be a bit of a critical moment for our industry. But we've obviously got a lot of under-advised consumers out there as well, so that's a good thing. You know, those people are potentially going to be able to get some advice. But I feel like this is an interesting time for our industry.
I mean, the only thing that's protected Australian advice businesses, and when I say advice business, I don't mean, you know, sort of our clients, I mean sort of the bigger institutions, is that we've got this regulatory model which gives a lot of protection, that these apps can't do those things. And I'm sure ASIC will be trying to slow them down in some ways. They can't provide, they're not a licensed provider of advice. But does the average person care? And so, you know, and good luck regulating them, good luck shutting them down. I mean, mind you, we've done it with social media stuff reasonably effectively.
Yeah.
Let's face it, if we are and I've said it in other articles, if we're reliant on our big superannuation funds being the main providers of financial advice, I think we're pretty deluded. I do firmly believe that AI solutions are probably going to be the main provider of financial advice in the long term to everyday Australians that need it. I mean, there's still going to be a premium for human advice. I mean, you still need it. I think human in the loop is a valued part of the equation. But if your service is purely digital, and there's still a lot of assumptions that that's going to be the case, and everyone says, well, I've got this app that does this thing, and that's all well and good. But the advantage that tools like ChatGPT have is they will already have a lot of information about that individual.
Yeah.
They will use that strategically, I think.
Yeah. And it's emotional. It's a relationship, isn't it? You've given those systems a lot of your. They really understand you.
Understand your marriage problems, your health problems, probably way too much about you. And so this is the thing. And the other thing too, that I think for whatever reason, the research is still sort of coming through. So in America, there's a healthy distrust for AI now. A lot of people are now associating AI with quite negative things. And I don't know if this will happen in Australia, but I think that's largely because they are starting to see obviously job losses. I think there's been a lot written about the leaders of the AI businesses, people like Sam Altman in particular, who are quite divisive characters. There's a lot of these court cases playing out now that these people are basically pathological liars, according to what's been said. So there's a bit of distrust, but in Australia, we probably we're not close enough to that yet. And I think a lot of people feel that their AI has no incentive to lie to them. Why would the AI lie to me?
Yeah.
We almost trust AI more than humans.
Yeah, which is a scary concept. Really trust them. Yeah.
So I think the message that we need to think about as an industry is, well, if there is going to be these readily available free AI tools provided by the major chatbot providers, what do we do with our service that differentiates or distinguishes ourselves from that? And it's got to be human, right, at the end of the day. But the curiosity to me is that if I'm running an advice business and I'm basically making a view that, well, I'm going to have a completely AI device generation model, and I'm going to have a completely AI client service model, well, what's the customer paying for then?
Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see, will consumers start asking more questions to their advisors? Do you use AI? How much of this is AI versus what you think?
Yeah.
And so I'm really nervous about that element because you want to pay for the human at the end of the day. And if that human can't explain the advice, can't jump on a whiteboard and explain quite complex concepts, then pretty sooner or later, consumers are going to work out, I could just go to ChatGPT and get this for free.
Yeah, that's where it's at. I agree. All right. Thank you, Pete. That was worrying.
Maybe just go back to New Zealand, Danny, and pretend AI didn't happen.
The next podcast will be a happy, hopeful one.
Yes, we'll change the tone.
All right. Thanks for joining me today, Pete. And thanks, everyone, for listening. And we look forward to seeing you again next time.